Hi everyone, Kiel here. Today I want to make a quick video to talk about web scraping and basically how to extract any information from a web page using cables. So if you're familiar with web scraping in general, usually you don't do this in your own browser. You have this kind of server and that does that extracts automatically in the information you want. But here for tutorial purposes, I want to show you how you can do exactly the same thing with cables, and this could be very handy to just get information from your own pages. So just a quick disclaimer, web scraping is mostly against the term of uses for all the websites you have out there, most of them, but it's completely relevant to do it for your own profile. The example that we're going to see today is how to extract your own images from Instagram. I mean, you are in theory, legally, you have some rights over your own images, and I want to also show you an example of how to scrape the YouTube videos or the YouTube titles of your own channel, right? So the rest is up to you, but I think it's a nice setup and example to understand how the web works, how the browser downloads a page, and how you can extract information from the page itself, right? So without further ado, let's get started. I have this setup right now, which is, as you can see, a completely empty page. And today, to do that, we're going to rely on two external services. It's just an example. I tried to find the one with the easiest access and free to use, at least for a certain amount of requests. Notice that you don't need to use those services to access and scrape any web page, but you will quickly run into this kind of IP blocking and being able to basically be banned on the website if you try to do too many requests with your own IP. So usually it's smarter to use another service and basically call it, but it's not required at all. So how are we gonna do this? Well, it's very simple. First, as you know, we're gonna do a main loop, which has actually nothing to do here, but it's the basic block for a cables patch, right? Then we're gonna do a sidebar just to have a button to launch something, right? So we're gonna call it sidebar here, and we're gonna create a button. Okay, this button, we're gonna call it, I don't know, we're gonna start with YouTube, right? So scrape YouTube. Fine. Okay, so when I click on this button, this trigger will be triggered, and we will have to do something. So if you go on this ScraperAPI.com, it's the first one we're going to use. It's actually a bit like the free plan has more requests than the other one that we're going to use, but it's very slow. So they actually warn you, hey, when you do requests through our proxies, it can take up to 30 to 60 seconds for one page. So it's extremely slow. But it's just to showcase, right, to see how it works. So when you register, if you log in, well, which I won't do because there's my API key, you would get a key, and then you just simply basically need to put this key, right? So you put the api.scraperapi.com API key, you put the number, and then you put URL equals the URL you want to scrape. So I have this setup that I already pre-made, and I'm just gonna copy paste it here. So it's very simple. So basically we have three main components here. One is the page you want to scrape. So in my case, I want to show you to extract the videos. So if I go on my channel, I have some videos, and I just want to get the title of each video. Could be anything, right? So this is the page I want to scrape. Okay, the URL here. Now this is the root URL, right? They tell you when you go here, you have to basically start your request by putting this. Fine. So I'm just here putting this. Now I'm going to also put my API key, and I'm using the string compose. And if you recall the string compose, how does it work? We showed this in previous videos. You basically have placeholders. So let me just put a string compose from scratch. So as you can see, you have like placeholder like $A, B, C, D until F, and then it basically, this is the format, and it will replace what you put in as string A instead of here, right? So it replaces part of the string. So it's very convenient to create a composition of strings and for instance be able to change just the API key or on the website or the root URL, right? So this is my format here. I'm I'm basically composing everything. As you can see, I have my key here, and everything is basically put out together. So now when I have this API, this full URL being constructed, I can just simply do a request, AJAX request, a regular HTTP request from Cables. But the trick here, usually when we do an API and we do requests, we expect the result to be a JSON file, right? So an object that we can really easily parse with our program, right, on our Cables patch or JavaScript or Python and so forth. But here, we don't have any API. There is a YouTube API, by the way. So if you really want to do YouTube, you have to use the Google API. I just take this as an example. But here, what we are really requesting from the website is the actual HTML page. So it's like we are asking, hey, can you give me what you would give your regular browser? And then we're gonna add some code to pick information from the HTML itself. So this is what you need to do. You need to change the content type so that instead of being application/JSON, here it's text.html, and it's a get method. So you get the info from the website, right? So if I'm here, I have nothing because I removed the auto request, but if I trigger a request by hand, you see it's loading through, and it's very slow because it goes back to their servers, and you have to wait, I don't know, 30 to 60 seconds. So it's not very convenient, but if you pay, it goes faster. Oh, it's always like this. So it's still loading. So what I've been doing here is that while it's loading, maybe we should put a loading status indicator, right? So something that shows that that spins, so that while it's loading, we should this, and when it's over, then okay, we remove it. So now you see it faded away, so it means that the data is ready. And if you just open the data, you have nothing because it's not parsed as a JSON file. Here we have to uncheck this box, but the response seems empty. But if you click here, it's a very big page, but it's like one liner of a whole string that actually gives you the whole YouTube page, right? So in theory, from this string, we should be able to extract the information we want. So let me go here and try to select the titles. So how would you do this? Well, it's simple. You would open the console. So in Chrome, it's Control Shift and I or J, depends where you were. And so you notice that here I have access to the whole console. And here when I click Elements, I have basically the structure of my page, right? I can, well, if I use this icon here, I can just try to select the element I want, and I will basically jump here within the code where it is. So you see it's pretty big, right? You have all the videos, the vignettes, the player, the number of views, and so forth. But here I'm trying to basically extract the titles of each video. So I'm here. I notice that's an A tag, which stands for it's a link, it's an anchor, and what I want is basically the text inside of it, or maybe I just want the URL, right, to get all the URLs of my video, whatever. So I'm trying to find this, and actually the YouTube website, if you study it a bit, it's a bit weird because they have an ID here, but in theory an ID is supposed to be unique to an element in the page, but here they basically have the same unique ID for different elements. So it's a bit weird, and they have as you can see, their own tag. It depends on the framework they use, but it should be fine to just basically select this stuff. So if you right click on here, you can actually try to copy, and they say, hey, you want to copy, and they have different ways of selecting. So for instance, copy selector. And in theory, this should give you a clean selector, but in practice, it doesn't really work. So if I go here on the console, then I can interact with the web page, and I can even paste the selector. So this one is fine. Sometimes they give you like the really complex, like it's the fifth child from this div, and it's very difficult to, and not very robust. If you change the number of videos, it would break. But here, because there's an ID, it's actually pretty clean. If we know how to select this title, even though they are unique, I mean, we should basically get a list of all the anchors, and then we could basically extract the text. So this is what we're going to do. But you can, so you notice, how do we now have access to the HTML? We know that it's a string here, but it would be very unreliable and very annoying to read the HTML itself, right? So to read this big string and try to manually parse it. So there is a node that I created that basically can, created, but it calls a regular HTML5 API that allows you to parse this HTML, which is just an XML format, and to basically create the in memory, so in the DOM tree, like all the controls that you would have for the regular page that you open. So here, if you noticed, I can always do this. I can always ask the document, which is this page, and do stuff with it. Right? I can query. I can say, hey, can you give me all the videos that are named video? I think it was title, right? So this document here, I can query any HTML tag, right? So I can basically go here and ask, can you give me all the elements that have this ID? And the way I did that, it's because when you prefix it with the hash sign or pound sign, it means select by ID. If you start with the dot point, it means select by class name. So here, by doing, can you give me all the IDs that have video title in them? Then you notice that I have 17 videos, at 0 to 16, right? It starts at 0. And then I can start to do stuff with it. But this is great when you are in the page here. But we would like to do exactly the same request for the page that we download from the web. And so there were no nodes for this in Cables, so I had to make my own. It's actually pretty simple. I'm going to show it to you right now and give you the code. So in Cables, you have this QuerySelector, which is it's a bit basic, where you give the query and it gives you back one element. So I tried to improve it, and hopefully it will go and be, depending on when you watch this video, be also in the Cables library. Try to put it on steroid a bit, so we have more inputs, as you can see. And first, you notice that you have the query, so that will be exactly the same thing that we did. Video title. So this is. Now, how many elements? Do you want or many elements? I know that I have several videos, so I want many elements. And I know that by default, if I just select it, I will basically select in my Cables page, or this one actually, in the canvas. But it's not what I want. I want to select from the page that I download from the web, which is here as a string. So basically, you can connect this to the HTML page, and then to actually do the selection, you have to click on select. So you can say, when it's loaded, then automatically start to select stuff, right? So I can put this here, and you also have this last input that actually allows you to print the tree. So what we did here, but from a page that you download, otherwise you have no access to this document.something, right? So to be able to debug and see what you get from the web, you can just print to console. So if you open now a console on this Cables page, and I'm doing here, if I print to console, nothing happens because we just reconnected everything. So I know that it took 40 seconds to download. So if I just want to trigger it, I can just do a trigger button, connect it here, trigger it by hand, go now. I have already the 17 elements, but just to show you, I'm printing to the console, and we get exactly what we had here. But we downloaded the whole page from the web. And we use this proxy because by default, if you just do a simple request on YouTube, the whole thing is delayed. So you will not get the whole HTML. It needs to basically render, needs the JavaScript to be activated so that it can asynchronously load the videos. So if you just naively put the AJAX request without passing through the proxy, the ScraperAPI proxy, you would get nothing. So that's why I showed you with the proxy. In general, it's much better to use one for all the reasons that I mentioned before. So now we have our 17 elements. If I just click here, then nothing happens. but it's just because the cables viewer cannot really understand how to print the DOM node, right? So this is an element. This is really an array of objects which are DOM elements. So like here, A's. Now, if I just by hand take the first one, these are all the properties that exist in my node. So not only properties, but functions, because it's a real DOM node. So what I want here is probably this, right? Outer text or inner text. It really depends. Usually it's the inner text. So I want the string here. So I want to get this property from each object. Right? So I have this array of objects, and now I can just say, can you get the values, from an array of objects. My array object is this guy. What are the key? What the key is? What is inner text? And in theory, if you do it right, and you maybe save it again, reconnected everything, and retrigger it, we should have something which we don't have. So something is wrong, obviously. Okay. Get values from array of objects. Yeah. Okay. I know why. So this is the standard, this is going to be fixed actually in the dev version. So there was a bug that I had to fix, and it's very technical. So I did my own get values of array of objects. The trick, if you really want to understand what happens, is that the way it's implemented, the property inner text is not exactly in this node, it's in basically the hierarchy, because one DOM node inherits from other properties from something, in higher in the DOM tree. I know it's very technical. Sorry for those who have a better HTML ID of how it works. Here, when you open the code, there was this kind of bug, or you would basically read only the as own property. So, but this property does not belong to this object. It actually belongs to the parent object. So I just changed the code here so that when you basically check whether the key exists in the object anywhere in the hierarchy. So sorry for this. This is a very technical subtlety, but just I have my own get values of array object, and this is going to be fixed in the next version. So don't worry about this. I'm reading inner text, and now we have our text. So let me recap of what we did. We created this new query selector that basically allows you to parse an external page that you download when you use this text HTML request. If you want to see the inside of this node, it's pretty simple. It's just the trick here is this line here, using the HTML5 DOM parser, which is already built in all browsers, and basically parse the HTML from the source that we download. Then we have this HTML document, which is exactly like a regular document, like DOM that we have on each page. And then you can select either a single element or many elements and try to print them. So the code, everything is public, so you can really copy and paste the node on your own projects. So now, okay, so by using this website, basically we did a request and we can extract any value we want. So we just go here, try to find elements that we like in the page, and basically go back to our query selector, put the right query, get an array if it's an array of elements, and then use get values from array of objects, put the property, and voila, you have everything. So this was the first part. Now, okay, second part. So I can just connect this to here, and when I click on the button, it will launch the query. Okay, now second part, Instagram. So Instagram is a bit trickier because you need to be logged in, and I don't like this idea. So I try to find it. Do we have any other websites so you can actually get your own Instagram post without logging? Because we can do logins, but it's more difficult to do. You have to secure authentication and everything. Here we want something very, very simple for the purpose of this video. So what we're gonna do is gonna do another button, connect it here, and call it scrape Instagram. So you can use the same technique, but I also want to show you another scraper, which is actually more convenient, faster, but in a more expensive. I mean, the free plan is really small, so you will basically exhaust it very quickly. But it's renewing every month. But it's very, very powerful. So basically, it appears like as an extension from your browser, and it's free, of course, to install. And basically, would allow you to create a recipe for a website, and basically automatically create an API for you for the recipe that you did to extract the results. So it's very, very convenient, and I find it's actually one of the best scraper that I found. It's a bit expensive, but so what I did was to go on this, this Russian sites that actually scrape Instagram, that basically makes a proxy for Instagram. So, but you don't need to be logged in. And if I recall correctly, it's called dumpr, like dumpr.com. Let me show you. So it's not an Instagram clone. It's actually Instagram, but just with a different front end. I'm not really sure it's quite legal to do this, but because it's my own page, I mean, I can get my own images, right? So it's exactly like Instagram, but as you can see, you don't need to be logged in to get anything. So what I'm interested in is to get the images, right? So I know that this is the URL for my profile. If I click here on this button, and I can say just scrape this website, and you see that then you can start to say add property. You can select stuff, and then say I want to just click on the image. And you see that it automatically finds the right way of calling this image, right? And you can say, I don't know, image, save. And now you can say view results. So you have to log in, and you see automatically say, hey, I extracted 12 rows, and then give you this actually the link to the image. So if I go here, put this in my browser, it should basically give me back the image, which doesn't work, which should work, by the way, because I did just before. But it's exactly what you have here, right? The image link, and so this is the thing that I already did, and you have, in theory, access to the image, unless it's being blocked by I don't know why. Let's run the recipe again. But probably what I think happens is that this dumpr stuff, they basically have a time limit on for refreshing the images, so that the link here changes over time, I think. So when this has run basically the recipe and has extracted all the images, hopefully the link here will be renewed, and then we can access the image. And now you can see you have the JSON preview. And this is basically what they extracted from the website. They already have so if I just put this link here, in theory, yes, we have the image. So it's just about renewing the cache when they do their scraping. So when you do this the scrape here, and you have to log in, it will appear here as a recipe, and then you can relearn the recipe to extract basically all this information from the website, which is pretty neat, right? So you can download a JSON file, or you can make it as an API, right? So that basically you can query this in real time, and also ask the website to refresh and recrawl and rescrape everything. So now it's really, and you see I'm consuming like free credits, right? But it's really like calling an API basically. If I go here, API, then you can have the API key and something, but you can basically call this, just read the recipe and call it from Cables, so it really looks back like a JSON file. So we don't need to scrape this web page here. We basically transform the scraper into an API, and then we can call it from our YouTube stuff, from our Cables patch. So we are here. I'm just copying and pasting the same recipe, so we don't have to type it here again. So I'm here. I have this. So the recipe UID is the name for basically the name of the scraping. So for this particular website, the key is the key, of course. And now I can just do the same technique, but instead of having to read it as a HTML page, I just ask it as a regular JSON file. Connect it here. And check the parse JSON so that the result really comes back as a JSON file. I'm clicking on the button, And you see now, if I open the object, I really have all the information, right? So last run, when I did this, the last time that I did the scraping, and I have got the image and image link. So what I really want to have is this guy here, the CDN for the image, and basically just put this in a regular texture. So it's a JSON object. I can just go here, click here, as you know, and get the image. If I click on the array, Cables will automatically find the right path and found basically all the URLs here. Now I can just apply this to, I don't know, rectangle. So this is why we needed the main loop here. So I can say, and then I make it maybe a slider so I can change the different images. So I don't know, let's do a slider here. And we notice that we have 12, so no, but I can just get the length of the array. And you can paginate, right? So you can actually ask the scraper to run, to basically go on dumper and load more of the images that you have on your website. I'm going to put this here. I'm saying, hey, the slider, the maximum value is going to be this. And the slider has to be between 0 and 1. So the step has to go one by one. By default, it's 0. Set default. Now we're good. We have a slider, and now we basically need to, from the array, get the string, right? So array gets string from this array, and we say, hey, can you give me the string at the position that I put in my slider? And does it fail? This is 12, right? So it's too big. It should be -1 here, because we'd start at 0. So it's between 0 and 11 if we have 12 objects. Okay, we are here. We get the string here, and now we just need to map it to a texture, right? So we can do a basic material. We can do a transform view because it's going to be too small. So I'm going to zoom with the camera. Transform view. Let's put it here. Let's put a rectangle. And we have the string. So now we need to basically create a texture from a string, which is pretty simple. So you can either load it as a texture loader if you want to load 12 images at once, but we can just do texture. And Cables is smart enough to basically run, if it's an URL, to load the texture as an URL. Right? So it's pretty, as you can see here, it's pretty neat. Now we need to make sure that we have the right ratio for a rectangle. So if you have the aspect ratio here, you can put it times the width of our rectangle. So when it's 16 by 9, it's going to be bigger. And just connect the texture itself to the material. Connect here, and just go to transform view and put the scale to 2. Save, close, and try the slider now. And voila. So you are actually pulling images from your Instagram account back in Cables. So now that you have this texture, you can do anything you want with the texture. All the operations that we already covered, or you can see in the Cables tutorials, the image compose stuff. You want to change the, I don't know, let's say you want to boost the colors, or you want to change the colors. What you can do is do an image compose. Go here and say, well, let's do first the compose and then the printing. Makes more, and then the display, I mean, makes more sense. So you here, and I say, hey, I'm gonna image compose this texture. So I'm gonna use a draw image here. I'm gonna draw my texture here. I'm gonna draw my texture here as a draw image, and you see it's here. Now the image compose has to be not the viewport size again, but the texture size. So you can actually get here width and height. So if you really want to be exactly, and I did something wrong, I think. Okay, no, it's a square texture. Okay. Okay, so I don't recall this image being a square texture, but fine. So we get the right ratio, and here's the same. Okay, so it's a square. Now I have this draw image, and then I can do, I don't know, HSL, maybe I can just change the, no, this, I don't know, like Luma key, I can just modify the image and apply some threshold. So you see I'm gonna remove, or I'm gonna take the output of this guy and put this now in my material. So if I print it, you see that depending on how I play with the sliders, I'm actually modifying the image. And this is completely, you know, procedural, right? So if I can just change the URL, I can apply the same filters. I can do any filter that you guys like and love from Cables. So if I go here and I have all this, I don't know what to do with it, but I can just go here and go texture effects, right? And yeah, you see I have like 103 ops that could work with this. I don't know, here, right? This is what I wanted to do before. And here I'm just changing the colors like this, right? So now all my images are basically recolored, which is actually quite nice, right? So there you have it. In one case, we really scraped the HTML from an external web page that we downloaded with this QuerySelector node. Here we use this website to create an API from a real scraping, and then load it as a texture and apply this to our material and do any kind of effects we want on this. So I hope it was informative and not too complex. I will of course share the patch with you guys, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you want me to do some kind of crazy stuff, because usually Cables is, I mean, in the mind of people, it's to make WebGL demos and motion graphics. Here we use it in a very different way of, you know, getting information, doing more on the data part, getting data and then our images, and then do some manipulation, load images and do some stuff. But I think Cables is so versatile that you can do tons of stuff. And I really like this idea of being able to explore different facets on the same node-based visual tool. So here you have it. I hope that you like this video. If you do, please do the like, subscribe stuff that you already know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.